Oh, so the line over here it's really incredible. Like I go in the line and I have to wait until I get to the front, or not the front, but to the intercom section for someone to ask me what I want. But then after I get out of the line, a person comes outside in a very in and out esque manner to ask people what they want. I'm like, okay, well then I guess I might as well come after 7 if that's when the person decides to finally come out and actually, be there and take people's orders without them having to go and sit through the whole line. But yeah, we're here a little bit earlier than I had intended, or I guess I don't know. Like I aim for 6 o'clock, but like I said before, by virtue of my living standards, it's difficult to go to sleep earlier than that. Um, Earlier than like 3, because that's when the person I'm with finally decides to power off. So it's nice to come up here at least, at least still early, to one extent or another. Um, those videos on statistics with regard to the decline of like relationships and things like that, I find very interesting because a lot of people really don't want to understand this idea, which is that in the digital age, there is a social decline. There's decline in terms of what stuff people think is acceptable. There's decline in terms of how people treat each other. You know, we'll get more into it later, but 30, 40 years ago, you couldn't make an account, hide your face, talk trash about the way somebody looks or acts, and then like just expect no repercussion for that. Yeah, there's a reason I only get one of these maybe once a month. Going back to what I was saying, in the digital era, there's just a like a real nastiness that we have in general. Like there are some people who, while anonymous or not, malice or in any way showing like a disposition or some type of disgusting behavior, but there's a reason why a lot of these people are hiding themselves and acting the way that they do. But more in particular, I just wanted to kind of talk about the title, potential. And that word gets thrown around a lot when people are just describing things in general. I've seen people say that there were shows or movies that had potential, but they weren't executed as well as they could have been. There are people who have potential that don't live up to it. And I actually had a conversation with a relative about 8 years ago on this topic, where they were telling me about how they felt as if their children had not lived up to what they could be. Um, and I guess I can understand a general discontent, like, hey, I have these kids, or maybe I'm an older sibling, and then you kind of like look at the person underneath you, and you're like, well, they're okay, but they could be more than this. Uh, And I what I find so sad about, because we talked about the mundane existence, right? And really, for that, it all comes down to this idea, to this reality, rather, that you have people who, when they want to remember something, they can. When they don't want to or don't care to remember something, they won't. You have some of these people, I swear to you, they have the mundane existence, but if you ask them to name different singers or rappers, even ones they don't listen to, they can do it like that. But if you sit them down and you say, "Hey, so do you know like basic things about your country, right? Where you're from?" They draw a complete blank. They know nothing of their own government. They know I mean, what I'm getting at is, when I look at someone like that, I don't get angry or upset or irritated because, oh, this person is so stupid. I get upset because I don't consider myself to be this genius, brilliant, so unlike anyone around him type person in terms of intellect, to where what I know could not be learned by someone else if they just wanted to learn. Because that's how I learned. I wanted to know it, so now I do. And of course, we've said before that a lot of these people, who have potential, do not have humility. So they'll often find themselves being incapable of just admitting that they don't know something. Like the person, I asked them what is single payer healthcare, or if they knew what that was, rather, and they told me that it was healthcare for single parents. Uh, just stuff like that, where they obviously don't know what it is, but they have to like try to guess it based off of a time. And it's like, I don't understand things like that, because again, people, if they ask me something and I don't know it, I'll just say I don't know it. This isn't a witch hunt or some test. And that's something that annoys me, because instead of trying to BS me with some nonsensical answer that's not true or that's incorrect, they could have just said, I don't know what it is. Well, tell me. And I would have told it. And I did. I ended up telling them after, just basically rolling my eyes with their, inability to describe that thing the correct way. But it's really sad to me, because I think people in general, and I truly believe this. I think almost every person, even those who have mental health issues, because there are a lot of people who get, are like diagnosed with stuff, but if they put their mind to it, still very much able to recite information and, just show their intellect in various other ways. What I think is so sad is that I believe most people have potential, but very few of them use it. And there are some where things are out of their control, right? Like we talked about, go back to America in the 60s, 70s, to an extent the 80s, but not as much. But, like, my point still stands that, like, you go back 50, 60, 70 years ago, there are a lot of people who, because of their ethnicity or gender, were not able to do things that they otherwise would have been very qualified to do, whether that's, acting or, um, just some other endeavor that was barred from them because of something out of their control. But when you're talking about a lot of these people and the stuff that they don't know or don't even bother doing, it's really just a choice. They don't have a desire to do something beyond, which just the like basic necessities to survive. And I've always said that I'll never be someone who can understand I don't know, like for me, every year, and this has gone back for a long time, I have like a set of goals, right? It's not even like a New Year's resolution because a lot of stuff is just carried over from year to year, but there's like a set of stuff that in the back of my mind I want to do at some point. And sometimes there are things I can't do because of the cost, right? Hey, I want to travel to every state. Oh, it costs too much. Or, whatever. You're tied down by some other obligation. But if you're talking about a lot of this other stuff where, let's say somebody wants to go hiking, that one person suggests that to me, I was, all right, let's do it. Um, it just seems like a lot of people really do just go to some job that they have a parasite relationship with. Like they sometimes say they like it, other times say they hate it. And when they get home, they go and they watch whatever, meaningless drivel is on the tube that day. As I said before, there's a lot of people who like they work their regular job, but they have something they're very passionate about. And that always like was interesting to me just because it's like the duality of okay, here's this thing I do that's considered normal, but down the side, I also like to write or draw or whatever, just stuff like that. And I'm telling you, a lot of people have just this weird, what's the way of putting it? I don't want to call it an inability, just nothing there. Like it's hollow, But I was saying that as well when it comes to relationships, where sometimes I'll really just sit here, and you can call it a fantasy, you can call it a dream, but I'll just start to think about, wouldn't it be so nice to with my favorite, it could be relatives, associates, whatever, to just call them up one day, we watch something together, go somewhere together, do something together, right? And there's no arguing, there's no bickering, um, just two people enjoying each other's company. And I know that exists because I've seen it in previous years, and that's one of the reasons why when I did the "We Can't Go Back" video, I was talking about how a lot of times there are things you might have, because I like as recently as a month or two ago during that peace summit, when I had this relative that kind of called themselves intervening in that saga. They were basically trying to come up with ways to help me get over or move on from this relative's passing, and I just kind of was like in my mind rolling my eyes because I think sometimes people when they're trying to do their little positivity punk stuff don't understand that there are certain things that you just can't come back from. Um, and much of it has to do with the fact that in people's lives, very often with someone that they were close to, there is no replacement, there is no subsidiary or understudy. Like let's say, for example, I had a kid, and me and my kid, just hypothetical here, like to go to the movies, go and drive, um maybe go for a walk, just do a little different stuff here and there. But the point is, like, there's really no one I do this with besides them. And we do this, we talk, we speak, we have similar interests, whatever. And then one day they either get run over by a car, uh, plane crash. I mean, there's some kind of unforeseen circumstance thing happens, right? In a situation like that, I really can't acknowledge or see a scenario where I could just supposedly move on or get, I mean, as far as like, you go and you do the stuff you did before, you go and do your job, you go and, just whatever little task you perform to survive, you continue. But when you can, try to like go about doing things you enjoyed and attempt to replicate those things or do those things now by yourself or with someone else, there still is a very noticeable absence. There's that emptiness or a hole rather, just like it doesn't matter if you can still do these things. That person you did it with isn't there. And that's why I try to say that, like, people, I hate using like, but people don't understand that many times it could be a relative, it could be a close friend, it could be an associate. There are individuals that we have a specific, unique interaction with that once it's gone can never, or almost in a lot of circumstances, come anywhere close to being replicated. I'm telling you, some relatives, like, I'm not even saying this to be funny. Some of them I had specific jokes with, like different lines that I would use, like, oh, here, just, I don't want to give any examples, but just as an example, I don't want to give any examples, but as an example, just things like that, where there are certain phrases, terms, way, manners of address or speaking that you only have with this one particular person. I'm actually sitting here eagerly anticipating returning, because I know when I get back to my place, the first thing I'm doing is crashing right on my bed. Relationships that actually mean something, you'll find, are just not interchangeable. The way the relationship I had with my mother was different from the one I had with my paternal grandmother, or my maternal grandmother, or my paternal grandfather, or maternal grandfather, or my father. It's they're not the same. Like, they might have the one commonality of, oh, this is an authoritative person that you listen to or are supposed to listen to, that, like, elder dynamic. But as far as specific ways in which you spoke to them, or it, I'm trying to think of a way to explain it. I mean, even with my best friend, for example, like, I talk to him about things that sometimes I don't talk with relatives about, but that's because um, I have a lot of trust in that person, and that goes back to my thing. If something were to happen to him, I wouldn't have a person who I'm not related, and arguably even related to, where certain things I would trust to speak with them about. Um, because really, I've only ever had probably two other people that I was as close, that I would have considered myself as close uh with regard to just being comfortable discussing certain things with. But the problem is with both of them that we really have grown apart, so I wouldn't be as inclined to just talk to them in that way. And thank God I came up here early with that music blasting. You can hear it right through the glass. And you know it's loud if you can hear it through your window and their window. That's crazy. Oh, let me whisper of a dream and just think about. I mean, with the women stuff, I think people get it, as far as those that actually listen to what I have to say about, just, you get tired of the time wasting and the frivolous nonsense they put you through. Oh, I find you so attractive. Oh, I find you so interesting. Blah 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 blah. But sometimes I really think about what could have been And a more positive person would say what could be, but I'm not. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I think that stuff is going to improve. Um, what's very sad about a lot of that stuff with women is that when you go out and you look at relationships in real life, and I'm talking about the ones where people have had kids with each other, they've been together for several years, if not longer, they're not perfect. Um, Many times they were by accident. Many times, if you're with these people enough, you'll see them argue with each other, and that's why there's such a disconnect between what people say online and what you actually see, because this fantasy that they sell you of, if you just improve yourself or work on yourself or go here or go, all this stuff that's like trying to make you do something or feel like you owe women something, but then in turn they believe that you're owed nothing. Again, it's all part of that same thing of like them wanting a slave more so than an actual equal or partner. But a lot of times while watching that, I've said, what if they actually wanted a partner, like a person that they enjoyed the company of? They didn't care, give a damn about how much money they made or any of this other stuff that has nothing to do with the actual decency of a human being. Um, just thinking of a scenario like that is so much more interesting and fulfilling than the likely prospect of being with a modern woman, because so often there is this poison that they spew out in the way that they act towards others and the types of things you're told to do just to try appealing to one of them. And some days I really do sit back and like, this is my fate. All of these chicks that everybody swears up and down, they're not all the same. They're different. They're unique. They have specific interests and wants and desires and all this stuff that they write on paper and they claim to you. But then when you actually go out and speak to them, you see the same saga play itself out every year. In every instance, same thing just happening over and over again. But remember, they're not all the same. They're very different. So unique. And remember, they'll have no problem lumping you in as the same thing as a bunch of other people. So that's why I don't feel bad about just being like, yeah, I'm not noticing too much of a difference here, because if you criticize them, there's a certain group they like to term you with, and I'm not even joking. You can be the most docile, timid, non-name calling person. They will affiliate you with that team. If you complain about them, get ready. So that's why I don't feel bad. But I was just sitting there thinking about their potential as a group and the ways in which I think they squander it. Just again the fantasy and versus reality. But I've seen this fantasy in real life, which is why I know it's not something that could not theoretically be achieved, right? Just imagining what it's like to be with one of them, as far as, hey, you have your first date and you and this person enjoy each other's company, um, enjoy speaking to each other, doing things. And I've often said the actual intimacy part of romantic relationships is so rare to truly feel and or get. Um, and that's one of the reasons why I walked away from a lot of that stuff, because it just seemed as if it was never progressing in any meaningful way. Like, you get somebody that, we talked about this before, but just between the dating sites and even the non sites, like places like Insta Garbage and Twitter, you'll see different women who you can get to talk to you for weeks or months, but I wouldn't say you're growing any closer to them. And a lot of times when they're online, they won't respond to you. It's all just hogwash. But again, as a group, the idea of being with one of them and you and this person kind of understand there are things about each other that you may not like, but you have common interest. You have some kind of actual thing in common. Uh, and then at a certain point, you may want to marry this person, and uh, ideally by that point, you wouldn't feel as if you'd have to get them to sign a prenuptial agreement or some other thing that limits how much they can get of yours. But the idea is that to truly feel comfortable with one of them versus just asking them out over and over, those are two night and day different things. And because the second one is just such a nightmare, the first one becomes almost a dream, in the very idea of its existence. Which is really sad because you're asking for something that, as I've stated previously, millions of men in previous eras have had. You go back to the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, the 80s. There were no groups of guys talking about how hard it was to get a date with a woman. There were no group of guys saying, I'm going to die alone and no one loves me. That wasn't a thing. And as I've explained before, the advent of social media, the triangle scam of the company, it made a lot of these modern women think that they're better than their contemporaries, their male contemporaries. Um, this is why a lot of times you'll have a woman who she could be on one of these websites from, I'm not even kidding, 12 in the afternoon to 3 in the morning the next day for some, dozen plus hours. And you could message that person and not get a response back either for another week or at all, in spite of the fact that she's on there every damn day, all day. Because that's how backwards this stuff has gotten, where to even get the most tiniest and minute response from the opposite gender, if you're a male in the modern era, requires all of this jumping through hoops. And I mean, I said before, it's almost cartoonish in how insanely imbalanced it is, I should say. I sometimes wake up and can't believe this is real. And it's a hard pill to swallow. I shouldn't even say pill because then they're going to start talking about the different colored pills and I'm going to roll my eyes. But I'm not joking when I said that it was so disturbing to me to think of the idea that there can truly be several billion women in the world, and you can speak to dozens of them, potentially hundreds of them, and not find a single one that actually wants to be with you. And again, though, some of them will say it up front, which I can respect. I said before, I'd much rather have someone tell me on day one, you're just not good enough, get out of here, than a person that drags to just like plays around week after week, month after month. But many of them, they'll try to entice you and they'll spin a web. Oh, I think you're attractive, but I'm just not ready for some, all types of little things they'll tell you, sweet nothings as I'd like to call them. And again, when you hear this stuff, assuming you're someone who really did want to be with this person, it's just really demoralizing. Like, I don't get off on talking to a bunch of uh, women so that I can have one of them say thanks but no thanks. No, you wanted it to go somewhere. You wanted to see some progression, but it's not there. It really goes back to one of the saddest parts about, you call it modern romances, modern people. just the idea that you can want something and try as hard as you can to get it, right? Because there's so many compromises that men have subjected themselves to. Oh, wear this, look this way, act this way, own this, just all these things that you otherwise couldn't have cared less about, but you'll do just on the promise or on the possibility of getting with someone. And again, when it doesn't work out, you get upset, maybe irritated, disappointed. But again, it's all part of that same thing of the potential was there, but the execution is crap. Sitting there and wanting to be with someone, it's a feeling I've just gotten used to. Like knowing what a lot of these women are versus what they could be is really depressing. Because, like I said, I was someone who at different points wanted to get married, have a family, but you just can't do that with the group that prioritizes physical appearance or that really can't make up its mind about what it is. As before, I think a lot of people have an identity crisis. I really believe that. I think a lot of them, if you sat them down and asked them to name 10 traits about themselves, or even five, right? They wouldn't be able to, or they'd struggle. Because even with myself, I feel like I've had a pretty defined set of goals for a long time. And there are, I also said before, there are certain ways in which I can acknowledge that I'm not the same as I was before, and I can attribute certain things to that. But I'm not joking when I say that sometimes when I speak to different people, I'm not kidding. You can tell them about some desire that you have, some long-term goal that you have, and they cannot do the same back. And you don't have to have some grandiose long-term goal. I could make a goal of wanting to see every movie with Harrison Ford in it. That's doable in a year. You go out and you look at his filmography or go on IMDb and look up the films on Amazon or some other place you can stream it. Just the point I'm making is you don't have to have some long-term grand goal to get me to believe that you have like a trajectory, like you know what you want to do. But a lot of these chicks, like of the ones I've spoken to, you'll be shocked by how many just go with the wind. Like, oh, I guess I'll talk to this guy, and if he sends me a message, I suppose I'll say hi back. I think someone who wants to truly get married, which I have seen a couple, but not that many. A few chicks admitting to wanting that. But I think if someone truly wants to get married, if they genuinely want to be with the person long term, if they absolutely want to have this specific singular dynamic with a partner, I don't understand the logic of, okay, well, I want to meet this very committed person or this person who can possibly be as committed to me as I am to them. Let me go on this dating site. Like that, it doesn't make sense to me because it's been very well established that when people go on dating websites, what is the main thing they look at? Someone's picture, someone's image. Not, oh, here's this profile where it says this person likes long walks on the beach. I mean, come on. That's why I said I really believe a lot of women, and you could say it's a lot of younger people, whatever, but I truly believe because of this social media era, and for them, because how easy it is for them to encounter people who will blow smoke up there, you know what? I really believe many of them are having an identity crisis where they don't know what they are, what they want. They flip with the wind. I believe that because when you speak to them and you ask them long term things, sometimes they'll say they want to do it. Other times and some. I had this one bimbo was like, "Whoa, so maybe they should." No, what happens is when you're not committed to anything and you stand for nothing, you can just again flip with the wind. Today I feel like I want to get married. Tomorrow I feel like I want to date five chicks at once. I mean, come on, this is what they do. When people aren't committed to something or have a specific, consistent desire, it spirals out of control. Especially in a society with no standards. I mean, we went from the 50s, 60s, where people they used to be embarrassed to have kids out of wedlock, and now it's becoming commonplace. I know one. Well, I'm not going to bring race into this, but there's one group where it now is a majority, and it's really sad. Um, and again, this doesn't mean get rid of them or any. I'm not talking about that. I'm saying in a hypothetical where, and I can't even imagine this happening, but let's just pretend for the sake of an example. Hypothetical scenario: I meet some woman, have a one night stand, and then she gets impregnated, whatever. Um, I can't imagine where I say, okay, well, I guess I won't get married to you and be pawn child support. Yay. I'm saying the more I sit here and just think about how everything is just in favor of women, it's so sad. It really is sad because I've said before, there are women who have accomplished tremendous things. Um, like we could do a whole stream about women that have just achieved things in world history. We could talk about the ones in the entertainment industry, just whatever, whichever way you want to spin it. And it's like this group of 3 billion people whose only real difference from men is an organ and something on their chest gets glorified and deified just for existing. It's sad, man. We live in such a backwards era. I guess we could speak more on that society not having standards. I've always been fascinated by how people. As a for I'm not some completely infallible creation. Like I'll give you just as an example. Sometimes when I drive, maybe I'm in the front of a lane and the light turns green, and the person right next to me doesn't immediately hit their gas pedal to go forward, and that might occasionally get me to think, oh man, there might be a fire truck coming or an ambulance or something that makes sense as to why this person isn't moving. But because I see them not moving or not moving as fast as me, I do notice that, and occasionally I will almost wait for them to go. And they're not stopping me, they're not blocking me, there's nothing blocking them. It's just again, noticing that they're not doing what they're supposed to do in that immediate second has me react by saying, okay, maybe I need to sit back and just kind of evaluate if this is something I should do as well. And like I said, I'm always interested in the types of things that people will condemn and then just be completely fine with. Because I've said before, I feel like from a standpoint of fashion, for example, I'm very limited, and I've talked about this before in different streams, just like how with women they can wear whatever they want. If a man wears, you know, certain things, then people freak out. And it's like the same society where people will freak out at a man over his attire, and sometimes at women for their attire, but not still. I don't think anywhere near as much. Um, if a woman has a kid that she knows she can't afford, if a woman is very honest about the fact that she has been involved in a uh let's just say explicit manner with several plus men, all of this stuff is just kind of swept under the rug and in some cases even looked well upon. Like, hey, you're honest about what you've done. And that's what I find so interesting, that in the same society where they'll make fun of somebody, well, really they'll make fun of a man for being like a virgin, they don't mock promiscuity among women. They don't say, hey, that guy, I guess we could supposedly laugh that he's not been with someone, but I mean, I'd rather. I guess that's preferable to being with everybody, which is what we could say about you. I mean, just that type of thing where I'm always amazed by how there's certain stuff that people are like really picky about, and with women, I'm not joking. Sometimes it feels like no matter what they do, it's okay. Person is standing outside with their hand in their pocket and they have some music playing on their phone. That's one of those things where I feel like I'm fairly modest when it comes to music. Like I don't have headphones that plug into my phone anymore. So a lot of times I want to listen to some music and I'm walking down the street or whatever. I'll put my phone to my ear or, make it to where it's not audible for other people. Just another showing of my modesty. Picked a really good day to have those windows up. I can tell you that. This is the music morning. I still can't believe it's 8 a.m. But yeah, going back to what I was saying, when people don't have standards, when they don't have a certain like line you can't cross, um, I think it makes it to where anything goes and it becomes acceptable to behave in any type of way. Like I talked before, I in the South, they had shotgun marriages where if you knocked up some girl, you had to get married to her so that the kid could have both parents in its life. And my thing with that is, I had one person, oh, well, the parents didn't love each other. It's not the point. The kid's survival, the kid that they created, is the most important thing in this equation, which is why the parents or I guess the grandparents in this scenario are making the parents get married because they want them to be together for the sake of their child. But in the modern era where there are no standards, when some guy gets some woman pregnant that he's not married to, you know, it's no big deal. Whatever. He disappears, jumps out the kid's life, sees him only once a month or once every several weeks or months. I mean, they don't care. It's like whatever. As I said before, there's a lot of stuff that chicks do that's screwed up, child support and purposely withholding but it's like that's the kind of stuff why I said I think it's so dangerous to even be involved with one of them in a romantic manner at this point because if you're not entirely sure that person is going to be in your corner, they can stab you in the back at any hour of the day. Told you I can't tell you how many times I've seen or heard of some woman that called herself in love with a man, and then after being with that person and having their kid, by the time the kid is born, they're arch enemies and they despise each other. And she's talking trash about him every time you see her. Where's this guy would go? He's literally just standing here talking to himself. Like I know he's not on the phone with the like on speaker because he has the music blasting from it. You can see all types of just weird stuff up here. I think he has it on full volume too. This one lady walked past him. She's like, just get away from me. But yeah, in the society with no standards, people are able to just do whatever they want. And like I said, when I talk about standards, I'm not talking about shaming someone over things that are out of their control or oh you didn't wear it, but it's like there are serious things that people do that can ruin someone else's life, whether it's their kid or their family member, whatever, and no one cares. I've always said the most entertaining thing to me is that I'll get more pushback for doing a video that somebody doesn't like than a woman will if she has some kid that she knows she can't afford. Like that's how backwards things are. Oh man. I have this one relative who I think this might be the longest period where I haven't seen them. And if I truly get my way, it would be nice to have a whole calendar year go by where I don't talk to them. Like I just keep thinking about how in Infinity War, Iron Man and Captain America are both in the movie, but they have no scenes together. And it's the only one of the four Avengers films where they have not like just no interactions at all. And I've always liked little details like that. Like I'm the kind of person where a show like Justice League, for example, I would notice back when I was a kid, like, hey, where's the other members? How it seemed as if outside of those special episodes, you would never get all seven members. You'd have probably five, four, maybe six, I think, on some occasions, but just for the most part, it was never the full seven. Yeah, there's a lot of different series where I can pick up on things like that. What it is I'll just kind of remember the scenes of some given character, like, wait, in that movie they didn't even interact with this other person, or in this show this character wasn't in this episode. Oh, this damn coffee. Oh, this should give me the boost I need to perform my other duties today. I only really have two things to do today, so it's not gonna be that bad. And one of them I'm gonna do right after the stream's over. But yeah, when I look at the potential of people that I know personally, I'm always kind of saddened by it, just because there's so much they could be if they just applied themselves to something. Like, I'll fully admit to you, I'm not some big channel. I've said that before. I know my, I know what I am and what I'm not, but I am someone who has read this stuff. When I talk about something, who's tried to research it, who has tried to give off the impression I know what I'm talking about. And even if I'm always going to be someone who doesn't get that many views, I am always going to be someone who gave as much effort as they possibly could towards the information that they presented. And I'm so tired of these damn texts with begging for money from these politicians. By the way, there was this person. I just want to like throw this out there because I thought it was funny. There was a person who posted this tweet in cap locks that I follow on Twitter, and it was like, you were this to me, and all you ever did, and I was like, what in the world is this? I thought they were upset about someone doing something to them. It could be a former lover, or just whatever, right? So I sent a message like, "Oh, I hope you're okay," and I'm like, "Wait, this doesn't seem like something you just write out of nowhere." So I took what they wrote, copied and pasted, found other people writing the same thing, and I found it was from a song. It's like I feel really stupid. I got worried that something had happened to them, or they were, whatever. But instead, it was just kind of a message that, I mean, I've seen people, post song lyrics before. It's just that I don't follow that particular artist, so it threw me off. I was like, "What in the world is this?" And that woman over there is actually, so I don't like fake hair. Like I've said before, it's just not appealing to me. But that's actually a fairly I'd say attractive woman. I probably, in another life would have said something. Probably not here, but still, like, like I said, I'll never not be attracted to some of them, but I will know to stay away from them. like I said, I'm very aware of many of my flaws because I know that there's this contingent of online people who try to say he thinks he's perfect. And it's like, no, I don't like it when someone tries to criticize me over a thing that I just don't think is their place to criticize me over. Like I don't go around going, this other man should have done this with this woman he was talking. I don't do that. But my thing is sometimes I procrastinate. Sometimes I take on too many projects or assignments at once. And there are some days where I'll set a goal and I just don't achieve it. There's sometimes I wanted to write something and I haven't been able to type it all out. Um, so I'm fully aware of just stuff that is caused by me that can hinder whatever I'm trying to achieve. But and this is a big but, the difference between me and a lot of these other people is that at the very least I am trying. I'm not saying I'm successful. I'm not saying everything I've wanted to do eventually happens because sometimes it really does not, but I'm still making an effort. Look, Akatsuki Merchant, I know you're upset. I know you're very angry. I know you're pissed off. I know you're filled with rage. I know you're typing inflammatory comments at me right now. And I know why you're doing all this because I promised you that in my next stream I would have a Kylo Ren image in the background. That I would have your favorite film character of all time sitting right behind me, and you would be able to look at his image and be reminded of what a quality character is. But I'm just not able to put up a green screen in the car. Now that may upset you, it may disappoint you. I get it. If you want to unsubscribe, I understand. But I will miss you, but I understand you've been let down. Um, but like I said, I can't do it in the car. Now, if you want, I can go and get a Kylo Ren action figure and I can put it up and hold it while you're in the stream, and then that way you'll be able to at least have some kind of visual image of him while I speak to help you concentrate on the topic at hand. So I know that's why you're upset. I know that not seeing Kylo has made you want to say bye low, but I just can't do it today. Their unfounded criticisms are discredited. Well, remember we talked about those two relatives that instead of just asking me, "Hey, why did you stop working at these jobs?" You quit every job you work at. According to who? I'm not even joking. When that guy said that he thought the U.S. had 1 billion people, I really it really did remind me of the idiot that said you quit every job you work. It's like it's one of those things where there's an answer, and all you have to do is ask somebody or look it up, and instead of just asking or looking up, you just assume something and then believe that until someone else says no. Because I've had times where I've been curious about the American population, so I looked it up on Google, and then it told me. Dude, I laughed so hard when that guy said he thought America had 1 billion people. Like, if California, the largest state, has at a maximum 40 million, and even that is like still disputed. We're probably still at 39 million, but it flips back and forth. Where some people just round out to 40 million. But if our state has largest state in the whole country, right, has 40 million people, by what metric do you believe it makes any sense to assume all these other states have enough people to quantify 1 billion? You get where when you like mathematically think that out, that doesn't make any sense. Like if the biggest state is only 40 million, which isn't even I mean, hell, that's not even a tenth of a billion. You get my point that like I don't know what that person was thinking. That's crazy. That just shows you like people really they don't do any research. And that's why I was talking about the mundane existence where you have these people who literally exist just to work some job, and maybe they watch a thing that they like here and there, maybe they have some person they like they hang out with here or there. But when it comes to basic things, even stuff that they're pro- proclaiming themselves to like be fascinated or interested in, they can't be bothered to do a single, even the slightest bit of research in terms of just looking something up. Like this isn't like, hey, oh damn, it's the '60s. I want to learn about a historical figure. I guess I have to go to the library. At this point, people. That's why I said, man, the digital age is so frustrating because it's never been easier to get information about something, but people can't be bothered to do that. They just assume stuff. And going back to the word potential, imagine how much easier it would have been for that guy to just type in US population size or something to that effect on Google, and then they wouldn't have to have assumed anything. They would just know the answer. That person got the same drink as me. Wow. They stole my idea. Oh, some of the patterns that people have. Man, somebody's playing some loud music. Again, for like the third or fourth time this stream. It's a really disappointing era, man. I feel like people have so much, like so many resources in their fingertips, and the fact that they're, I'm not even joking, it really feels like the more technology advances, the stupider people get. Like I'm really not even saying that to be funny, but the basic things about history and just like again, it's like people. I'm embarrassed, man. I really am. Just the way that they act and the stuff that they, not only that they don't know, but that they don't even try to know. They don't even look it up or anything like that. They don't care. Like I have really the one thing I'll give myself credit for, and we can end the stream here because nobody's even coming, and Akatsuki Merchant just came for a cameo. But the one thing I'll give myself credit for is I have tried as hard as I can to use Google to its fullest potential. If there is something I don't know the answer to, I try to look it up. I went to a funeral almost a year ago and I had to tie my tie. I looked up on there how to do that. I actually got a compliment for it because somebody noticed that I, had done it. And I never usually make those or put them on. My point is, I really tried to take this service, this app, whatever you want to call it, search engine, and use it to forward myself in some ways. Maybe not as much as I could, but I have tried as often as mandated to use it when I'm curious about something. So with that being said, Akatsuki Merchant, I'm gonna get out of here because I got other errands to run, and we're having one of those low view days. It's fine because Saturday was so cool that I'm okay with today being kind of a dud. But I'll be back on next Saturday. So until then, see you. Have a good rest of your Monday.